You're listening to WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, Singles Talk Radio channel, where we take a lighthearted and candid approach to discussions on the journey of relationship loss, divorce, parenting, being single, relationships building, dating, and yes, sex. Join our listeners and begin living your best life.
And welcome, everybody. Welcome to the show. My name is Bruce Starr, and there he is. Okay. Well, I do have a very, very special guest on the show with me today. He is a very serious guy. Now, if you've ever talked to any serious people in show business, he's a very serious guy. Let me tell you a little bit about him. He's disappeared off my phone list. Hopefully he's going to come back. He is so. Well, there are some people in the business that I was an agent out in Los Angeles for about 5 years in the early '80s, and it really was a great time of my life to be in the business. And there were some people who were absolutely genuinely funny, and there were other comedians that they tried and they could make you laugh or you wouldn't laugh, but there were just some people that were absolutely genuinely funny. And my guest, are you there, Murray?
Bruce.
Okay.
There
are some people.
Did I leave my underwear in your car last night?
Murray.
The magnifying underwear with the picture of Monica.
This is a clean family show, Murray. In case I didn't tell you that before.
They were clean underwear. Oh, wait. Oh, no, it's my polka dot thong. I think I lost my only one polka dot, but we don't have to go there. Now, do we?
So, there are very
good morning. How are you?
There are very serious people in this business. And
I'll be serious.
Murray.
You be Roebuck. We'll form a team, Sirius and Roebuck. What do you think? Can you hear me? Are you there? Who is it? Why are you calling me? Do I have to get a restraining order on you?
When I was out in Los Angeles as an agent, I was lucky enough to get connected to people like Howie Mandel and Paul Reiser and Jerry Seinfeld. And this guy here was one of those guys. And I don't know how it happened, Murray, but if you remember, Barry Martyr, you and I went to Texas and Dallas, and we did some gigs over there, and you were kind enough to invite me along. And my memory tells me it was one of the most fun times I've ever had.
Man, you've had a miserable life then, haven't you? That's one of the fun times you've ever had. Jeez, I mean, you've never had sex?
Murray, this is a clean family show now, Murray.
Oh, well, how do you think we all got here? Okay, clean family show. Okay, I got to figure out how my family got started now. Okay, so yeah, I don't remember that. I'm old. It's the bitch getting old,
I know, it is, but it was a treat. It was a treat because we'd go out to dinner, and, some guys, off stage would be, kind of real serious and very, Howie Mandel was like very quiet, very serious. Well, you got him off stage, but when he went on stage, he was, very, very funny. But Murray, you really, really like people. And I remember the fun that you were having with waitresses and the cocktail waitresses and anyone that was walking by our table. You were having fun with them. And I really love that about you.
Yeah, I love to have fun. That's I gotta say that is on stage or off stage. I really don't change much. It's just you get what you see and you see what you get. Yeah. But to me, life is to be enjoyed every minute. You know, I used to have a saying where I enjoyed every day. Nowadays, as I get older, I enjoy every minute. I really do, and I try to do that. And I have enjoyed every minute except for this phone call. Which is embarrassing, but, you know, I have to tell the truth. I am friggin' bored as hell now. I'm only serious.
I'm sorry. I'm apologizing.
I love you more than is normal for the guy I love another guy, but that's another story. Anyway, I'm having my 12th cup. I'm on my 12th cup of coffee this morning, which means that's 12 cups I'm going to have to wash. Anyway, where were we?
You know,
you're in Florida, I'm in Los Angeles.
But that brings up more geography games because people are going to find it hard to believe where you're from and where are you from, Murray?
Well, the last I checked it was the closet. You know, you haven't heard. You haven't heard, right? I am now a quadrisexual. Do you know what a quadrisexual is?
No.
Oh, wait. That's someone who'll do anything with anybody for a quarter. But that's me. Wait a minute. I'm from, you remember where I'm from. It's written on your underwear, isn't it?
You're from Nova Scotia, of all places. How did someone born and raised in Nova Scotia find their way to one of the craziest places in the world and be one of the craziest people out there?
As I recall, I took a cab. And it was quite expensive, too, let me tell you. No, I have a book out now called Journey Through the Unknown, which is on Amazon, just came out last week, which details the highlights and lowlights of every year of my life. It really does pretty much explain in detail how this young, crazy kid from Canada ended up in the States and having a blast, having a great life. But basically, I came from a very poor upbringing. We were really poor, and I ended up from Nova Scotia to Toronto to Montreal. Next thing I knew, I wanted to be in show business because I loved Jerry Lewis. I was a huge fan of Jerry Lewis as a kid because he was, I watched all of his movies. He was on TV. I got his lunch boxes, his comic books, everything. So I wanted to follow in his footsteps. And decided I was going to be in show business at a very early age. But being from Canada, the only way I could get to Hollywood that I could envision was to cross the border and join the military, which is what I did back in '62. I crossed the border and joined up while everybody was going to Canada because this was during the Vietnam years. And, being a kid, I never watched the news. I had no clue what Vietnam was. So it was quite a shock to cross the border and join the military and all of a sudden find myself actually at that time in the Cuban blockade. If you can remember Cuba in '62, the Cuban blockade. But
Murray, what were you 6 years old at that time? Come on, I didn't know you were that old, Murray.
Yes, I'm 69 years old. You add up the numbers.
Come on.
What?
Oh my God, I didn't know that, Murray. Wow.
Yeah, I actually would be 79, but I was sick for 10 years. But we don't need to go there again. No, yeah, of course not. The years sort of slip on by. Yes, but I still feel like a punk kid. It's amazing. At 69, I don't feel any different than I did when I was, 68. Not much. Or 38 or 48. I don't feel any different physically. I'm extremely healthy and energetic, and I got a couple of girls that I'm raising, and it's good. Life is really, really good for me.
I do want to find out more about your girls, but I also tell me about how when you did go into the armed forces, were you attracted to the entertainment industry then? How did you How did you get going?
Yeah. As I mentioned a few paragraphs ago, I was a huge fan of Jerry Lewis, and that he was the inspiration for me getting into the military. Thank you very much, Jerry. Which was not easy. I broke a nail twice, as I recall. But I spent my 4 years, and which actually turned out to be good because I got all that medical now. And it's really funny is I joined in '62, like I said, and 50 years later, I finally became a citizen last year in 2012.
Wow.
So it took me that long to decide to become a citizen after all those years. But back in those days, you could only be one citizen. You could either be a Canadian or American. I decided to stay Canadian. But now, you can have dual citizenship, which is why I decided to become an American too. So I'm currently, as of last year, an American citizen after having served in the military like 50 friggin' years ago.
Jesus! Wow! Congratulations. So Murray, how did you first get going though? What were your first gigs? What did you do to get noticed?
I walked around the streets naked a lot, but that didn't really help. But actually, no. I went to after I got out of the military. I played drums in the military, trying to get into the business. I was on an aircraft carrier. I was in the Navy, 4 years on an aircraft carrier called the USS Shangri-La, and I was also Good Morning Vietnam before what Robin Williams was. I actually, while in the military, had my own radio show called Murray's Musical Merry-Go-Round of Music, and it was fascinating time. But when I got out of the business, I had no idea how to get into the show business, so I knew I had to come to Hollywood, which I did. Came to Hollywood, and I worked a whole bunch of jobs. I worked, as computer operator. I worked as phone answering. I worked. One of my best jobs was shoe salesman, because that was during the miniskirt craze. So it was pretty cool. But then what else did I do? I did all kinds of jobs, but I always knew I had to get in the show business. So one way or the other, and I formed a comedy team with this guy. Actually, I started off with a guy named Jack Starr. And we got a job at this place on Sunset called Canopos, where we were paid a hamburger a night. And another a comedy team that worked with us was Cheech and Chong, who also worked for hamburger a night. Yeah. This is way before they made it. But but my first job in show business was actually on Roland and Martin's Laugh-In. I don't know if you remember that.
Wow. Yes, of course. Wow.
Yeah. Well, Tiny Tim had made it big, and I thought I might have a shot. So I called up NBC and asked to talk to the producer, going through an agent, because I didn't have an agent. I didn't know you were supposed to go through agents. And the producer, George Slaughter, got on the line. I told him I want to be on Laugh-In, and he said, "What do you do?" I said, "Well, I'm working on this impression of a fork." And he said, "Come on down." So I went down, and I showed them this ridiculous impression, and he brought me into a room full of writers. And they just looked at me, and so I went back thinking, well, that was a waste of time, but it wasn't, because 2 days later they called me and they said report to makeup the next day, and they were going to shoot me. So I did, and I went down, and my first job was actually on Rona Martin's Laugh-In as beautiful downtown Burbank's greatest impressionist, doing an impression of a fork, and a bunch of other weird impressions that the writers wrote for me.
Wow.
And I thought, well, I'm going to make it big now, but it didn't happen. I ended up getting fired from my computer job, and a whole bunch of other stuff happened, and I actually didn't work. So anyway, but eventually I ended up working over at the guy who was working with Jack Starr didn't work out. So Red Fox, you remember Red Fox, of course.
Sure.
He owned the nightclub on La Cienega. So I went over there and I met this black guy named Freeman King, and so we started doing sketches together. And so much of show business is being in the right place at the right time, and we were just in the right place. We became Red Fox's opening act, and Red, really liked both of us, and sort of became my mentor over the years to a degree. Anyway, this agent saw us and said that they were doing a summer show. Sonny and Cher were doing a summer show and set us up an audition. So we went down there and auditioned for it, and coincidentally, the producer of the Sonny and Cher show, a guy named Chris Beard, was also a writer on the Laugh-In show. And when I walked in, he went, "Hey, aren't you the guy that did that fork on Laugh-In?" Which was pretty cool. Anyway, we did these sketches, but working for Red Fox, they were really nasty sketches. But that's all we did. And they just looked at us also, didn't laugh or anything. We walked out thinking, we're going to get that gig. But 2 days later, phone call, and next 4.5 years, I'm a regular on the Sonny and Cher show. So, which was pretty cool, yeah. Going from, and at that time I was selling shoes. So going from selling shoes to be on a national television show for 4.5 years was quite good. So, I've been a very lucky guy. Or woman, depends what I wear, but we don't need to go there.
Not right now, anyway.
unless you really want to, but that would mean that. And but that's up to you. So what's your next question?
How about we go in this direction? I was around so many comedians, and some of them are absolutely miserable to be around, and some of them are a lot of fun to be around. And it's good. It's good that you connected with people that can, that were able to get you to the next step. How did the Gong Show come up? And my second question to that is, Murray, how did it feel to become really one of the most famous people in the whole country at that time? Everybody knew the unknown comic, but nobody knew who it was.
Yeah, I didn't know. Yeah, well, I never felt it was that famous of a character. I felt it, it was gaining recognition at the time. But how it happened was after the Sonny and Cher show, I ended up doing like over 800 TV shows over the years. I worked as a comedy actor on the Sonny and Cher show. Then I worked as a comedy actor on a series with Bobby Denton, on a series with Lola Falana, on a series with Wolfman Jack, on a series with a kid series with the Hudson Brothers. I ended up doing a lot of work as a comedy actor, which was really nice. But then it all sort of came to a halt, and I was out of work, and then I decided, well, heck, I think I'll open up my own nightclub restaurant. And I was only 30 years old by then, with the money I'd saved, and I specialized in bankruptcy and became very successul with that stupid restaurant idea. But you gotta when you open up a restaurant bar, you gotta do it because you're a businessman. And I wasn't. I did it for ego, and ego is the worst reason to open up a place. I got my own place, but it was a nice. I mean, I'd never look back and regret anything. It just was 2 years of my life that took a lot of work and cost me every penny that I had earned up to then, because I did lose everything. But the interesting thing about those 2 years is, David Letterman, my club was one of the first ones he worked at. Michael Keaton was actually almost discovered at my place. He was Michael Douglas back then. Deborah Winger was one of my waitresses, the actress. So it was. I had a nice. I ended up working with a lot of people, and I had a lot of fun. It was 2 years of a lot of fun, even though I ended up losing my butt after 2 years, and I was broke. And that's how the Unknown Comic got started, though, was because of that club bailing. I have this, in my life, I've always thought that when your back's against the wall, that's a great time to create. Because when your back's against the wall and you got nothing to do, that's when at least when I start to look for a way to move forward. And I've always felt that falling on your face is still moving forward, if you know what I mean. So
yes, that's true.
When I was completely broke again after losing my butt in this restaurant for 2 years, and the Gong Show had already been on the air like about 6 months, and I heard through the grapevine that if you're in the union, which I was because I'd done a lot of TV shows, that they had to pay you. So having been in the union, AFTRA, I figured, well, I got to get on that show just to order, make myself a couple $100, which is what they were paying back then. I think it was about $200 to get on the show. And I just needed the money, but I didn't want any of my friends to see me on this Gong Show because I thought it was embarrassing. So I thought that's when I came up with the idea of I'll just put a bag over my head and I'll go on as the unknown comic and nobody will know it's me and I'll make a quick couple $100. And so I ended up going on. I still remember my first joke. I went over to Chuck. I said, "Hey, Chuck, do you and your wife ever make love in the shower?" And he said, "No." I said, "Well, you should. She loves it." You know? And the audience, of course, loved it. And then Chuck loved it. He came over and he said, "Hey, man, that was great." He says, Can you do the next show and insult me too?" See, what it turned out is, because Chuck was always, insulting the acts, and so he liked the fact that I gave him a certain amount of vulnerability by coming out and insulting him. So I ended up doing like 160 gong shows, and you figure 160 times $200, that's over $400 right there. So it was, and all of a sudden, after about 6 months or a year of doing the unknown comic on the Gong Show, I started to realize I had a character that maybe I could use and gain some recognition with, and then I was offered a job in Vegas and at the Sahara, and next thing I knew and I didn't really have an act then because I'd worked as a comedy team, but I never worked as a single comedian. So then I had to develop an act, and that's what took some time. But when I worked in Vegas, because I was getting recognition, and like I said, they offered me a job. They offered me some pretty good money. I remember, I remember they offered me $5,000 a week, and I'd never heard of that kind of money before, which was ridiculous. But I had no act, so I hired a band to work with me, and I called them the Brown Baggers. I put bags over their heads. I hired 2 girl dancers, called them the Baguettes, put bags over their heads, and they opened for me. So my show was quite well received, and I got really good critical response. But it was my show literally cost me about $6,000 a week. So I was in a hole because I had to pay everybody's hotel room and pay them all salaries. So, but it was a learning process, and slowly but surely, over the course of the next couple of years, I ended up developing, my own act. And but that's how it all is coincidence, because my club failed, and so the next thing I knew, the next several years, I'm doing the unknown comic all around the country and in Vegas.
Wow. I'm so glad that you took the time to tell me all that and to share that with the audience, because, that's the part I really love about people is, how they made it and what they did with their opportunities. And, you were someone that took full advantage, good or bad, of what was presented to you, and I have a lot of respect for that, Murray.
Well, thank you. If there's anything I really need is respect, because you should see me when I'm home alone. It's very, it's not pretty. I'll just tell you that now. But anyway, like I said, everything is detailed in my book. Plug my book, Journey Through the Unknown.
I was just going to get to it.
I also have a joke book out too. That's on Amazon. It's a joke book for people who think Donald Trump is a joke. And the other side is the joke book for people who think the Kardashians are a joke. It's a really funny joke book. It's all just nothing but put down jokes on the Kardashians and Donald Trump, which is also on the internet, on Amazon, by the way. So I've got from stand up. Another one of my philosophies in life is that change is growth. When you have change in your life, you can't help but grow. So I've always, like when I did the Unknown Comic, I did it for a few years, and I said, okay, I'm going to debag this and try to do something else. So I got rid of the bag, and then by the way, I was the first one to ever put 3 comics on stage in Vegas too. I don't know if you know that. You know how every comedy club in the world is in Vegas now. The Improv.
Yes.
Yes. Almost every hotel has comedy shows. I was actually the first one. I have the write-up somewhere of I was the first one to initiate 3 comics on the same bill by getting guys. Well, and girls, my first show was at the Landmark, and I had Elaine Boozler and Willie, Tyler, and Lester opening for me. It was the first.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, back in a long time ago. But anyway, after I did the Unknown Comic, I said it was time to move on. Because, like I said, my philosophy is change is growth, and when you change your life, you always have to adapt to new circumstances, and you learn a lot from that. So I decided to give up the Unknown Comic and pursue, and I did a couple of little movies. I did a movie called Up Your Alley, a movie called Wishful Thinking, And then I decided to try doing a few plays. So I've always, done other things. Money was never a focus. Neither was fame really a focus of my life. It was all about just having fun on a daily basis and doing something different and new that made life enjoyable every day.
And then you went and did something and got married?
You had to bring that up, didn't you? You just had to bring that up. Yeah. Well, I didn't realize that marriage is a wonderful way to spend the weekend. I actually got married and I got 2 kids, and they became, again, when you think about change in your life, that's such a dramatic change. And I just completely fell in love with becoming a dad. I didn't expect it to, and I never even thought about having kids. But when they happened, I absolutely loved it. And I have an older daughter who, by the way, who just signed a huge deal with Capitol Records. She's going to be a big star soon. Yeah.
Wow.
She's also Britney Spears' background singer on her last 3 albums. Her name is Maya Marie, if anybody wants to check her out. But, she's, in fact, Britney just had an album come out. My daughter not only sang on the background of 12 of the 13 songs, but also wrote one of the songs called Body Ache on Britney's current album. So she's going to kick butt. And then I have a sweet little 14-year-old who happens to have Down syndrome, but Down syndrome turned out to be one of the best things that ever happened to me. She's a little jewel in my life, and I wouldn't have her any other way. She's brought so much happiness into my life. It's unfriggin' believable. So, like I said, my life is just a series of just fun things. And even at the age 69, every day is just a fun experience for me. Except for
Murray, are you still living at the same house? We don't have to mention any addresses. Are you still living in the same house in Hollywood that I visited a long time ago?
No, I left Hollywood years ago. My main home is in the Tehachapi Mountains, which is about 90 minutes from L.A., but I also keep a place in L.A. I've always kept a small place in L.A., especially when I was helping my older daughter out with her music career. And but I have several acres on a mountaintop in Tehachapi with 4 ponds, and it's really nice. It's beautiful. So I've done very well. I live there, which has always amazed me how so many people who made so much money file bankruptcy, and I never made over $100,000 any year of my life. I think my biggest year was like $60,000, and I live so good. It's ridiculous. But that's me.
That's great to hear. Murray, that's great to hear. I really, really appreciate you coming on the show. You took a damn year for you to say yes, but other than that, we don't have to go there right now.
Well, the year was spent writing that memoirs of mine, the book. Seriously, I spent a lot of time, and I just said, let me just get, and it's a good book, lots of pictures and stuff, and anybody who wants to learn about me will really learn more than they'll ever need to know about me, and not only me, but about stand-up comedy. There's a lot of really great stories, me partying all night with Elvis Presley, me being threatened by Frank Sinatra, me spending Christmas Eve with Lucille Ball. How many people can say they spend Christmas Eve at Lucille Ball's house with her? You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And it just goes on. Jim Carrey's first TV show was with me in Canada, a series called The Sex and Violence Family Hour. But there's just so many stories in this book of people I've met and had fun with, and tons of practical jokes that I pulled on people too, and jokes that were pulled on me also. So
say the name of the book again, Murray. Say the name of the book.
Yeah, it's called Journey Through the Unknown. THRU through on the unknown. And I'm also on Twitter. If anybody wants jokes every day, I'm on Facebook and Twitter. Facebook, it's Murray Langston or the Unknown Comic. And on Twitter, I'm at Unknown Comic. And you can, every day I put jokes on. And people think I do it for them, but I really do it for me to keep my brain happening, keep my brain current and keep my brain active.
Well, yeah. I really enjoy getting your humor every day. I look forward to it. I don't know how you keep coming up with this stuff. But you're one of the great experiences.
Well, thank
you really are one of the great memories and experiences in my life, and I just want you to know that. And I really appreciated the time. And I want to thank you for letting me be your personal appearance agent for a short period of time when I was out in L.A. in the 80s. And I enjoyed spending time with you. You're a great guy. And I wish you.
We had a good time. I do remember us having fun together. Yeah, but like I said, my life is fun all the time. I'm just a lucky guy, and I don't know where it came from, but just like I said, I got to know a lot of very famous comics who unfortunately were really, like you said earlier, miserable human beings, generally speaking. And it's sad to see that. So I never really considered myself a comic, because most comics, unfortunately, do seem to be sort of sad characters.
Yes.
But I've never thought of myself like that. To me, life has just been a fun roller coaster ride. And
I do have one question for you. Did you know, were you aware how wild and crazy the host of the Gong Show really was?
Who, Chuck Ferris?
Yes.
No, I thought Chuck was crazy, but he was just so enthused with the millions of dollars he was making. That guy was making money hand over fist. And the funny thing also is, a lot of people thought he was drugged out during those years, because everybody thought he had to be doing coke or something because of the way he would wear hats over his eyes. And then a few years ago, I was talking to one of the other guys from the Gong Show, Gene the Dancing Machine. I was on the phone with him, and I asked him, I said, was Chuck a druggie back in those days? And he said, are you kidding? He said, no way. If he found out anybody was doing drugs, he would have them fired. He says, we all did our little drugs in the back, but we had to hide from him. And so that was sort of surprised me, because I sort of thought you had to be on some sort of stimulation to be the way he acted on that show. But apparently he was not into drugs at all. As neither was I, by the way. I was never, my life has always been such a high. I couldn't even imagine getting into drugs. I never did. But just give me a couple of, who are some of the other folks that you really remember enjoying working with, going on the road with, enjoying working with, whether it was Vegas or anywhere on the road? Well, that's the sad thing about getting older. Like I had 5 best friends, and 4 of them are gone now, which is a bummer. My best friend left is Ken Perkins, who is married to Ruth Buzzy. You know Ruth Buzzy, of course.
Sure. Sure.
Well, Ruth and Ken have been my best friends for years. In fact, they're the godparents of both my girls. But one of my best friends was Pat Paulson, who died a few years ago, who I dearly loved and really missed. And we traveled a lot together, and we did plays together, and we did. Pat was one of my dearest friends. I missed him a lot. And Freeman King, the black guy that I teamed up with on the Sonny and Cher show, he's gone. Yep. Ted Ziegler was another guy in the Sonny and Cher show that's gone. And these are guys I'd known for 35, 40 years that I talked to all the time. And then my last best friend, who passed last year, he wasn't in the business. He was just a great guy who lived in Las Vegas, Jimmy DeLisi. So those were my 5 best friends, and now I only have one left, and he moved to Texas and left all alone here. So now the only best friend I have is this guy named Bruce Starr. I don't know if you know him, but he's never around. But he used to give the best massages. Do you remember the massages he gave? My buttock would tingle for weeks after massages. But seriously, you bit too much. I hated the fighting. The fighting was not good. But otherwise, what? Anyway, life is good. I can't complain, I got to say.
Well, I'm so glad that we had a chance to spend this time. And
at least one of us.
I really, really appreciate it. And believe me, I'll be listening to this show every once in a while. And God bless you. And I hope that, every once in a while, you don't mind if I give you a call, say hello, see how you doing.
Actually, that would really bother me. Yeah, so just I'm going to get a new phone number after this, so don't even try, okay? No, I'm kidding. No, anytime you want to call me, absolutely call me, It might take me another year to answer. No, anyway, but you take care, buddy, and I got to go back to feeding my kids and getting my 13th cup of coffee, which will be 13 cups I'll have to wash now.
And God bless, and I'll continue to watch your stuff go by on Facebook. Thank you so much, Murray. You're great. I really appreciate it, buddy.
You take care, and don't forget to stay happy and enjoy life. All right, bye-bye.
Absolutely. Thank you. Bye-bye. What a great time. God bless you, Murray Langston. And he was really quite an influence, and like I said, wonderful memories for me. Take care, folks. See you again next show. Bye-bye now. Bruce Starr here.
You're listening to WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, Singles Talk Radio Channel, where we take a lighthearted and candid approach to discussions on the journey of relationship loss, divorce, parenting, being single, relationships building, dating, and yes, sex. Join our listeners and begin living your best life.